storm show. Ay, it's a storm show.
What is up, Storm Chasers? Today we have really a different kind of interview than what we have done before. Today I am speaking with Miss Eunice. She is Scotland's first Black supermodel. Did I read that right when I looked up info on you?
Yeah, so they say. Sounds good. I'll take it. But yeah, people do often refer to me as that.
Well, we already know how influential supermodels are. She is absolutely gorgeous on the outside, but we're going to get to know her a little better. We're going to learn more about some of her tribulations in the fashion industry. And we're just going to have a good chat about really what girls need to know if you really want to be a model. You know, everything is not what you see, okay? And so, Eunice, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Storm. It's my absolute pleasure to join you today. I'm delighted and I'm excited to see what we're going to discuss.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, okay, first things first. A lot of people get thrown off because you are a Black supermodel that lives in Scotland. So can you tell the people that there are actual Black people that live in Scotland, in England, in the UK in general?
Yes, there are. I think one of the most interesting things about, I suppose, media in general is the way that it focuses on Afro-Caribbean people in particular places and particular continents. So you kind of are left thinking and feeling like Black people only exist in those spaces. So funnily enough, this isn't something that's unique to America. Even within the UK, people in England find it really strange that there are Black people in Scotland. And when I go,
What?
England, they're like, "Oh my God, you're Scottish. How can you be Scottish and Black?" And I'm like, just, the same way that there are Black people in all over the world, in Germany, in Russia, in America. The process of colonization and economic migration mean that we are literally all over the world.
Absolutely. And that's like hilarious to me that people that live in one country would not think that you would be right in the next one. But you know what, in the United States, some of us still feel a little funny that there are Black people in Canada. So I totally get that. Now, living in Scotland, have you always lived in Scotland or have you kind of moved around a little bit? Because you can almost sound like you're American too.
Well, funnily enough, I was born and raised in Edinburgh. So I've always been from here. But I, through fashion, started to travel the world and through education, actually, because I studied in America. So through my job and education, I have traveled the entire world. So my accent is very Scottish, but the place that I'm from is called Edinburgh. So in Edinburgh, the closest accent that you would probably be familiar with is maybe someone like Sean Connery, but he's from a place where it's very broad. So if you listen to my accent very carefully, you probably find I'm just like a more subtle version of that. And don't forget, America is made up of Irish, Scottish, Italian people. So, your accent does sound quite similar to, I suppose, Scottish people a little bit, just a wee bit. But I really just think it's the dichotomy between the way that I look and the way that I sound. But in other parts of Scotland, the accent is much more broad. So in Glasgow, that's the typical exported accent that people hear. And the Glaswegian accent is like much stronger. It's kind of like, is that you, Storm, going on your TV show and talking all your stuff about all them fancy people? So it's like a really different sort of sound, whereas the Edinburgh accent is quite, I suppose, more not as strong, basically.
Okay, gotcha. So one thing that I really wanted to hop into, Eunice, I really wanted to know When oh no, let me back up. What actually inspired you to get into the fashion industry?
For me, I actually had no interest whatsoever in fashion. I was a total tomboy, and I was really into sport. I used to run indoor 100, 200, and 60 high jump. Um, Growing up in Scotland, I was one of only, say, 2 or 3 other families that were Black in the entire country. So if you feel marginalized, then you can imagine what that was like. So I did suffer from a lot of persecution and racial discrimination. So I really had no idea that I could be even seen as a beautiful girl, because I've been pretty much told my whole life that I wasn't. So I definitely didn't think I could be a fashion model, and I was actually scouted about 5 or 6 times before I gave it a go. And I was very reluctant. I really didn't take it seriously. And on top of that, I didn't think it was a real job. Like, coming from a small country and population like Scotland, it's not like a big city like in London or New York. And I really was quite unaware that this could be considered a job and a career. So I decided to give it a go. And next minute, I'm just getting, transported all over the world: New York, Paris, Milan, Japan, Arab Emirates. And I started when I was about 15. So this was completely mind blowing for me. But it was so funny because for some reason, I didn't admit to anyone. I didn't tell anybody that I was a fashion model. Um,
Also, you hid it.
No, like I literally, I remember the first time I saw myself on a billboard campaign, and I was so freaked out, and I was like, oh my God, no one could know, no one could see me. And it's just, I suppose that's just a look into my mindset as a young girl. I thought it was so odd and bizarre that I had been chosen, as it were, because it was the first time in my life I had been kind of awarded or praised for something because of my appearance. So that was something that was quite unexpected and quite bizarre to me. So I certainly didn't intend to be a fashion model. I used to walk around in my Air Force and my baggies and my bomber jackets, pretty much like now, completely no makeup, nothing at all. Hair doing its thing, completely natural. So yeah, I really didn't intend to get into fashion.
And it's funny because as you describe that story, your story is very similar to Naomi Campbell's. Because when she got scouted, she thought the photographer was like, she thought the scout was like talking to her blonde friend, and he's like, no, I want you. And so, tell us about some of the obstacles you faced being a Black model.
I think one of the most critical issues that I had certainly was early in my career, I was asked to relax my hair, and I just didn't want to. I think because where I grew up, there was no Afro hair salons, and it wasn't something that I had ever done before. It wasn't a political choice. It wasn't, I was a really young girl. I was only like 16, 17. So it was just, I just didn't want to do it. And that resulted in me being dropped by one of the biggest agents in the world. So that was the first time I kind of realized that, maybe me being natural was for some reason not something that was promoted or welcomed in the wider world. I did continue to model. I had other agents, and we can talk about that in more detail. But as a fashion model, you will usually have a mother agent, kind of like being a football player, or we call it soccer. You guys call it soccer, we call it football. But if you're a football player, you'll start really young, you'll go to an academy, you'll train, you'll then sign to a team. It'll be like your mother agency or your team, and then they will loan you out to other agencies. Sorry, I turned that off. But yeah, so kind of like a mother agency, a football agency, Okay, I think it's off now.
Embrace Pangea is a black-owned health and wellness brand that has solidified themselves as being able to take care of your yoni. But guess what? They do more than just service your yoni. Yes, as a matter of fact, Embrace Pangea has products to cover you from head to toe, inside and out. And in particular, let me tell you about a couple products that I personally use. Number one is the herbal tooth powder that is better than any toothpaste that you will get over the counter. It will get your teeth clean and help your teeth to maintain a natural white shade. And in addition to that, the advanced botanical mouthwash is something that we all should have in our medicine cabinet. Now, when you look at a bottle like this with 25 potent herbs like echinacea, golden cell, don't laugh at me if I mispronounced that, you know what I meant. We need these natural ingredients in our mouth rinses so that we can fight tooth decay, gingivitis, all of that plaque, halitosis, and overall poor oral hygiene. Okay, so if you want to get a good clearance when you go to the dentist, get you some Embrace Pangea. And in addition to that, make sure you use my code STORM to get 10% off your order and check out today.
So yeah, in the same way, so I had agents all over the world, so I continued to work with those agents, and I had this really funny experience where I had gone to work in Paris, and it was, well, in fact, maybe I should say before that, so I was working, and a lot of my peers who were not Black, not Afro-Caribbean, they would get a lot more jobs than me. And I genuinely thought it was just because I wasn't very good. So I then went to work in Paris editorially, which we'll talk about later, as opposed to as a catwalk model. And I remember being in the studio, and there's this amazing, fabulous lady. And she was like, I walked in and she was kind of like circling around me, sizing me up, checking me out. And she was like talking away in French. She was like, oh, and she was like, oh, you're fabulous, but you're too dark. You're too dark. And it was Star's face is like, know. And yeah, so, and it was really funny. It was quite a revelation for me because as opposed to feeling offended, coming from the UK, particularly in England, as opposed to Scotland, people are, it's not the done thing to be honest about how you feel or to display emotion in English culture. And it's not acceptable to be direct about, I mean, I'm talking in terms of social interaction and unwritten social etiquette. So nobody would ever say something like that to you directly. And this was the first time in my life that someone had said to me directly that the reason I wasn't getting booked was because I was too dark. And actually, as opposed to upsetting me, it actually empowered me because it was the first time that I realized, listen, I am good enough. My face just doesn't fit. And I think that for a lot of Black women here in Europe and the UK and possibly all over the world, it is really important to understand that, you know, there is institutional racism, there is discrimination that has existed since colonization. The preference for European lighter, brighter skin is unfortunately something we do need to negotiate and eradicate. And it is something that is very real. So what happens to like my generation and many people is we just don't believe in that. Like we love everyone. I love everybody, regardless of their race, skin color, gender, disposition. That's irrelevant to me. I don't care if you come from a bad background or a good background, if you're upper or lower class. I connect with people based on the individual. So, and I think that many people are like that, but unfortunately, that's not the reality of the world that we live in. And if you're not thinking like that, you might actually think, oh, the reason I'm not as successful as an artist or as a model or as whatever it is because you're not good enough. When in actual fact, you are good enough. It's just that your face doesn't fit into the industry as the industry is designed.
And you know, to be completely honest, I almost feel like the modeling industry was never really made with us in mind. Like people that look like us, it wasn't. But anytime we were in a photo, we walk down the catwalk, you know, I'm gonna get my catwalk together here. But no, seriously, anytime we do anything, we stick out. And so it's like a mind game of have to tell you you're not good enough, so you don't really know how much you really bring to the table. But I'm proud of you for being empowered in that moment, because that would have broken a lot of people. They just would have gave up and just would have been like, okay, well, it's nothing I can do, and it is what it is. And so I want you to then tell us about, when it comes to modeling, right? There are different types of models. So explain to us the different types of models. And I want you to, because it's 2020, include the Instagram models as well.
Okay, well, before I define models, I think that, so I have a book out called How to Get Into Fashion. And I wrote the book specifically because I realized on my journey that no such book exists. Yet so many people want to be part of the industry. And unlike other professions, there are absolutely no guidelines. And what happens is many people are actually exploited, taken advantage of, or end up going on the wrong route. I have a wee copy of it, which I'll let you see. It looks like this, Casey. And the cover actually is by an amazing American artist called Bradley Theodore. He's amazing.
That's a beautiful cover, by the way. I love that.
Thank you. That's so kind of you. So I think it's also important to say that in the book, I go through many things, and I start off kind of talking about how to identify your look. So there are three main body types. The first is an ectomorph. The next one, which is basically slim build, like my own, mesomorph, which is more medium build, and then there's the endomorph, which is more of fuller build, shall we call it. Now, the first type is generally associated.
The last one is me, guys. The last one is me. Okay.
A fuller figure, okay? Fuller is beautiful, okay? So the ectomorph is usually used in what we call editorial modeling, editorial and high fashion. So usually they do catwalk or runway shows, I think you call it, as well as they shoot for very fashion-focused editorials such as Vogue, Oyster, Paper Cut, and so on, Pop, V. They will work with brands such as Chanel, Dolce & Gabbana, Versace, these types of brands. The second one, which I mentioned, which is both the mesomorph as well as the endomorph, they tend to do what we call commercial and advertising modeling, as well as, I suppose, lifestyle. Now, these are things such as an advert for Foot Locker, or for Walgreens, or for general everyday things that everybody would buy. And the reason that we have to use different body types is, of course, the customer that is buying those products has to be represented. So you might see an advert. We have a store over here called Boots, which is kind of like a pharmacy. So that's where you're going to see a variety of age groups used, because every single age group is going to be buying products from that store. So that's not to say that that's the be all and end all, because as I say in my book, that life is what you make it. And if you believe in yourself and you're determined enough, and you research and investigate and do, and I mean, I'm someone that I believe in God, so everything I do, I share and ask for guidance on that. And I believe I would never say to someone, because you're not this body type or this look, that you can't do something. And there are models such as Tess Holliday, who was the first what they call plus size model on the cover of Cosmopolitan magazine.
bad bitch? Are you a bad bitch? Are you a bad bitch? Is you a savage? Now, whether you are a bad bitch or whatever you want to refer to yourself as, I am here to talk to you today about a book called Bad Bitches and Power Pitches that is authored by Precious Williams. Now, one of the biggest differences in life between you and your competitors, I don't give a damn if you're going for a promotion, if you're trying to sell your business or anything, is the ability to effectively communicate. Precious Williams comes from St. Louis, Missouri, which is the home of it being hot in here, St. Paul sandwiches, vet sodas, and the best Chinese food on the damn planet. And she has went from the slums of St. Louis to being able to show you how to elevate your life simply by using the gift of gab. Now, Precious Williams' book has been featured on Forbes, CNN, Black Enterprise, and the Storm Monroe Show. And what I am telling you guys is that you need to hit that link in the description box so you can cop a copy of her book today.
You know, there are many models of different shapes and sizes, particularly in the last few years, who've completely transcended and blown apart the stereotypes and the tropes of fashion and shown that you can actually be an editorial model, even though your body type is not the typical body type. But I do stress that that is quite a recent phenomenon. So yeah, in terms of modeling, there are multiple different types of modeling. The three that I discussed are the main types. On top of that, we also have alternative modeling. So if you were someone who had a lot of tattoos all over your body, that would be classified, you'd probably fall into that sector. Or if you had something that was particularly unusual about you, you would probably fall into alternative modeling. Then under that, you also have spokesmodels. And you tend to come across those in things like trade shows. Again, that's kind of still under your commercial lifestyle. And these are generally everyday people who have a great, bubbly, engaging personality, who might look more similar to, you know, a beauty queen. So they have a look that many people have, because if you look at a lot of editorial fashion models, they have what we call a strong look, which is usually not typical of the general population, just in terms of their structure of the face, the spacing of the eyes, and the strength of the jawline, etc., etc. So next to that, you also have fitness and sports modeling. Again, that falls into lifestyle, commercial, and advertising. And the reason we have lifestyle is a lot of the time brands such as Nike or Adidas, they will want to use a model who is more than a model. So they want to use someone who lives, breathes, and acts that lifestyle. So they will often go for an athlete model for their brand as opposed to a model. Or they will choose someone who is actually in the world of fitness, because they want someone that genuinely represents their brand out there in the world as the face of them.
Nice. And so basically that was a really beautiful breakdown. I'm glad you were able to let us know, so that way we know, okay, we can look at people and say, oh, okay, she's lifestyle. She's this. I have to add in the funny. So basically what Eunice has just told us, guys, is that there is a place for me somewhere. So as soon as somebody opens up something for the short guys, I'm just going to be right in. I'm letting you know. It's been nice, YouTube, but as soon as...
It's true. Honestly, like, this is the thing. Everybody can actually be a model. It's just about understanding your look and where you fit, and then you're going to have much more likelihood of success. And by the way, just so you know, commercial, lifestyle, and advertising models, generally speaking, make more money than editorial models or high fashion models. Generally speaking, simply because there's more work, the buyouts are larger, the licensing is larger, because if you shoot for, like, say, Sweet Greens or a supermarket or something like that, then they will usually have loads and loads of stores all everywhere. Whereas if you shoot for some luxury brands, they don't tend to have a store in every single street. So therefore the licensing is less. However, obviously, if you're shooting campaign for a major luxury brand, you're probably going to be getting paid a huge amount of money. However, generally speaking, not every single editorial fashion model will ever have that opportunity, and that's the reality. Whereas when you do fashion, commercial, and lifestyle, you're more likely to get the opportunity to shoot campaigns. And in fashion, it's campaigns that make you money. So it's a bit of a myth that editorial or magazines shoots make money. Usually in fashion, those types of shoots don't make any money at all. In some cases, you might not even get paid to work for a major fashion magazine, or what you'll get paid is really, really low amount of money. Again, that is completely dependent upon you as an individual. So if you have a strong brand, if you're a well-known model, you're more likely to get paid a significant sum. Whereas if you don't have that, you might not get paid at all. However, as a fashion model, it's essential for you to do that editorial, because it's through that editorial that you will then be seen, as it were, and you'll be booked. So if you can imagine, a champion athletics, or in golf, all of the competitors are paying their own way, maybe for 4 or 5 years. They're competing intensely, but they're not getting paid to compete, but they have to compete in order to be seen. Now, once they compete at the high enough level, then they may be approached to be sponsored. And that money is used to sponsor your career. But it's not until you actually win a gold medal that you will actually be able to make money, which will come through advertisements and more sponsorships.
So basically, guys, what she is telling you is that you can be a model that shoots for Vogue Italia. And it's just kind of like, well, you didn't get paid for it, but the opportunities that come from it are going to be really worth it. And so I wanted to just briefly touch on it really quick. A show popped up on the scene in the early 2000s called America's Next Top Model that was started by Tyra Banks. And the show in the reality world did really great. But a lot of the ladies after the show have said that they had problems booking jobs. Their portfolio was pretty much worthless when they would go to go-sees. And so, in your opinion, was America's Next Top Model a good representation of the fashion world, or was it more just reality?
I think that's an excellent question. I believe, first of all, I think that what Tyra did is phenomenal as a fashion model, more so in Europe and the UK than in the US. It isn't typical for us to go out into the world and do other things other than model. The industry kind of frowns upon it. So definitely a massive congratulations to Tyra Banks for achieving that. Of course, I've got to be honest, and I think that is a TV show. So of course, what television in its essence is commercial, is advertising. So in order for people to enjoy it and to tap into what people are more familiar with, it's going to have to be slightly more commercial than in the general high fashion world. So I'm pretty sure that a lot of those models, had they gone to see an agency that was more commercial, they probably would have got signed. However, if they went to more of a high fashion agency, they might not have had the right pictures necessarily to get signed. And it really just depends on the agent. However, in saying that, if you get my book, one of the most important things that I tell people is that in order to be a fashion model, you don't need a portfolio. This is kind of one of the myths of the fashion industry. And unfortunately, it's such an exclusive industry that doesn't have any guide, which is why I wrote the book, How to Get Into Fashion. So there is a whole industry that has sprung up around the real industry, where you find people who genuinely believe in what they're teaching, and sometimes they're just kind of nefarious and naughty and are actually deliberately exploiting people and taking advantage of them. And they're the ones that are charging people money to create portfolios, for example. In the book, I tell you that no reputable model agency will ever charge you any money to start in the industry. No agency.
I think people need to know that no reputable agency is going to charge you money. So these little modeling agencies that pop up and say, "Oh, just pay us $1,000, pay us $500, pay us this." I mean, some people are coming out 10 and 15,000 US dollars to get signed to these agencies that aren't even real. I really want the young girls to understand that.
Yeah. So that's exactly why I wrote the book, to prevent exploitation. So again, inside the book, I tell you that actually all you need to get signed to a top agent in the world is to take Polaroids. Now, Polaroids are quite simply photographs of yourself, not wearing any makeup. And what we'll be looking for is a straight head-on shot, a portrait shot from each side, a mid-length and a full length. And inside the photos, you would be wearing something quite similar actually to what I'm wearing. So just a normal top and simple trousers, or sorry, you guys call them pants, right? So pants or jeans, no jewelry. I'm wearing jewelry, but no jewelry at all. Maybe an earring, but if you want to err on the side of safety, I wouldn't wear any jewelry at all. And of course, absolutely no makeup at all. Completely natural skin, completely natural hair. And I think this is something where a lot of girls and even men nowadays go very wrong, because they wear makeup and they have extensions and they have all of these things. And the thing is, if you can imagine, say you're walking down the street and you're praying, you want to be a model, and like an agent walks by and you're wearing like a full face of makeup and you've got extensions in and you've got all of this stuff on, like they're probably not even going to stop you, because they're not going to come up to you and say, "Can you take up all your makeup? Can you take your extensions out your hair?" They're not going to do that. That's rude, number one, and it's just a lot of work. They're going to look for the person that they can actually see. They can see your skin, they can see the texture, they can see your hair, they can see what you actually look like. And in modeling, one has to be a blank canvas. They know what they can do to you. They know how phenomenal you will look if you have proper makeup on. So the challenge and what they're looking for is to see how you look as your natural self. And for me, my campaign has always been natural beauty and self-love. For me, I don't believe in telling people what to do. If you want to wear your hair a certain way, if you want to wear weave, that's completely up to you. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I believe you should never judge somebody, because you don't know what that person's been through in their life to get them to the point where they're doing whatever they're doing. But certainly, I think that our culture and our society puts so much pressure on us to be something that is often unobtainable and not reality. And I think that has very damaging effects on human beings' mental health, and leads to things like body dysmorphia. And I really think that we as a society should be encouraging natural beauty, not to diminish or to say, don't wear makeup, don't wear hair. Those are things, if you enjoy, you should do. But if we're living and feeling odd about going outside with no makeup on, or feeling strange about showing our natural hair or feeling scared to come out in public as our natural selves, and that is very concerning, and is not something that I think in the 21st century is a healthy way to live. So all you need is Polaroids, and anyone can take them. You can get your mum to take them, you can get your friend to take them, you can get whoever, and take 4 pictures, and that's all you need. You don't need
so you
anything.
literally, because you just take them like that, and then the profile, and then that's and then,
all you need.
That's all you need.
Full length as well, so that the agent can see like your whole body and your shape and everything. So then they will know how to place you.
I know where to place me. Place me right in the photos for the married men. That's exactly what I look like. Like to play the football coach or something like that. Just put me right there.
I think there's some things you could do. Now, for example, remember commercial also includes things like you have really good hair. So you might find yourself in a commercial for shaving products. It will probably be the shaving products that, the more expensive the brand, they might tend to go for a more fashion looking model. The more affordable the brand, they're going to look for someone that is looks more typical to them. Again,
regular. It's okay. You can say it. You can say more regular looking. Look, the cheaper.
I'm not going to say that because I totally don't think that. But this is just how industry thinks, right? Yeah. So there's always a place for everybody. Personality is very important as well. And that really varies. I find when I work in countries like and continents like the US, they do prefer a slightly more bubbly, outgoing personality, whereas in the UK, it's much more reserved. However, it kind of leans towards a kind of rock chick, quietly raging against the machine, bubbling under the surface. And in Paris, it's much more, I suppose, it's very reserved as well, very chic. And then in other countries such as Milan and other parts of the world I've been to, China, Japan, it's best to just keep quiet and just kind of be looked at, as opposed, not too much talking. So they don't like talking particularly.
Now, I know one thing, by the way, when y'all see me in a shaving campaign, I want my props. I'm speaking now. I can do anything, damn it. Eunice, one thing I really wanted to touch on too is how you've been able to navigate the industry and maintain your dignity. And so when you first got into modeling, were there some things that you said you would never do, like nude modeling or anything too degrading? Like what did you have in your head as you got into the industry?
In the book, I talk about a number of different things. I talk about roadblocks and hurdles. I talk about the importance of setting goals, of strategy, of research, and most importantly, I talk about something called core beliefs.
Yamaya's Gift is a brand that specializes in medicinal herbs and all natural supplements to help alleviate a lot of conditions that Americans suffer from, okay? Now, Yamaya's Gift got products to help you with that hypertension, to help speed up that weight loss, get rid of them fibroids, as well as help alleviate the symptoms of that diabetes. Oh yeah, that sugar is real bad. So now with Yamaya's Gift, you get a lot of gifts, but the best gift that anyone could ever give you is the ability to heal thyself from the inside out with products like elderberry syrup to help keep that immunity in check, because we all fighting Miss Rona. We all trying to windmill her ass up out of our lives. But one of my personal favorites, as a matter of fact, 2 of my personal favorite products with Yamaya's Gift is the all natural honey and the tea that's for men. And the reason why I like those products is because If you are somebody with a low sex drive, if you need a boost in the bedroom, and if you are ready to get Brian Pumpered, Lexington Steeled all night long, then just put some of that in your man's cup and you will be on your way to a happier, healthy marriage, all right? Now, place your orders today, whether you need your immunity taken care of, you're trying to lose some weight, you're trying to get rid of that sugar, the diabetes, or you're just trying to bust a nut, okay? Order her shit at www.yamayasgift.com.
So to me, it's essential for you, before you get into the industry, whether that's fashion, acting, music, to identify what are your core beliefs. What are the things that you genuinely believe in and stand for that you do not want to go against? Because unfortunately, what happens is you'll be thrust into situations, and this is where the reality shows are very accurate, because the fashion industry is so fast-paced and you don't have a moment to think, and you've got these amazing opportunities being thrown at you, and if you don't do certain things, you know, it is not seen as a good thing. And it's so important for you to think about, what do I think I'm going to be asked to do? And am I okay with doing that? And do I really want to do it? So I decided really early in my career, there were a number of things that I didn't want to do, including nude. And that's not because I'm prudish in any way. I am definitely not. It was more about me. I like to be, I feel like power comes from having your own beliefs and sticking to those beliefs. And for me, the two things were, I didn't want to do nude, and I wanted to have a natural look. I have no problem if I go to a shoot and the client wants me to straighten my hair, or they want to put, you know, hair extensions, that's fine. But outside of work, I want to be me, because I am a role model, and many young people and indeed all age groups look up to me. And it was important to me to provide a competing ideology and to show that you can be successful without necessarily conforming or adhering to everything that you're asked to do. However, I'm not going to deceive you. There are significant consequences to having beliefs and to sticking to them. So you will be seen as difficult to work with often if you're not willing to do everything and anything that's thrown at you. But at least if you know that in advance, then it's not as hurtful. You know, I had to accept, you know, acceptance and feeling happy and proud at what you've achieved is also key. Because, you know, I've had to watch my peers, many of my peers, be far more successful than me because I don't relax my hair, you know, and because many brands prefer that look. It's only really been in the last 3 to 5 years that we've really seen a lot of natural dark skin models, other than phenomenal supermodels such as Alec Weck, being used in campaigns. Is a very new thing, which I'm so proud of, because I do feel the fashion industry, you know, in the past has been not so good, but they have shown, particularly in recent years, I think they're really leading in terms of diversity and using people with different skin conditions and appearances, from alopecia to vitiligo. So I do think that we're doing really well in that respect. But if you understand your core beliefs, you identify them, then you understand that you will probably not get as many opportunities because you have chosen to stick to those. So, you know, you could look at the music industry. You know, the music industry has a very specific stereotype or trope of a Black woman that there's a preference toward. There are very few dark-skinned women of color that are shown in their natural form. For me, I can only really remember people like Lauryn Hill, for example, who had a very strong natural look. It's very few and far between. So as a singer, you need to understand that if you're going to have a natural look, then people are probably, you might not have as a quote unquote successful career. but it's important for you to understand that you're just as successful, you're just as amazing, you're just as fantastic, and not define yourself by whether or not a particular brand books you, because particular brands don't use particular looks.
Absolutely. It's all about finding where you fit, finding your lane, and really working at. And I'm glad you brought up like the music video industry too, because I mean that's technically modeling. It's like booty modeling, but it's a form of it. And so they have a certain look. You know what? I like how you said that. Once you understand your look and where you fit, then if you just focus on your lane, you can probably be okay and still make a decent living for yourself. So another thing, as I read up about you, Eunice, is that you use your voice and your platform to speak on racial injustice. And so not only racial injustice issues over there in Europe, but also over here in the US. And so how I would like to hop into it is to ask you, when we go through racial issues in the US, like George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, stuff like that, are you guys exposed to that as well? Like, how do you guys end up finding out about what's going on over here?
Well, believe it or not, I honestly don't feel that African American people are aware of just how powerful and significant they are to the entire world. The entire world looks up to and is inspired by African Americans, no matter where they're from, if they're from the hood, if they're famous, if they're well known. We grow up watching you on television. The majority of European countries have hardly any Afro-Caribbean programming at all. So when I was growing up in Scotland, there's no Black people on TV. There was no such thing. Other than Naomi Campbell, there was no representation. So I had to look to America for my role models, for my inspiration. And that is true of the wider social, economic, and political environment as well. So your Marcus Garveys, your Malcolm X, your Martin Luther Kings, these are the same people that Afro-Caribbean people look up to everywhere in the world. In fact, the colonization that took place here in the UK and other parts of Europe was so intense that we were not able to actually even have somebody that I can even mention as akin to or had a similar life or story. So when you guys had your civil rights and these fights for justice, it was because of them that this happened all over the world. And I think it's a great injustice that African American people in the USA are so dislocated from the rest of the diaspora or Afro-Caribbean people across the world, that they don't perhaps relate to or understand that so many people look up to them all over the world. And I think it's a shame because I feel that they suffer significantly because they possibly don't travel as much. I think traveling is the greatest education in the world. And there are certainly many American people who do travel, but it's rare to meet an African American person outside of America, unless they are, a superstar musician or actor, etc., etc. And even then, they're usually on a tight schedule. They're only in town for a short period of time. So I think that, it is a shame. I remember, being so inspired by a quote by Marcus Garvey, which was, "A people without the knowledge of their past history and culture is like a tree without roots." And I use that often because I think that one of the greatest thefts that's happened to Afro-Caribbean people is that the diaspora, as a consequence of colonialism, have completely lost touch with their history. And their history is that Africa was not called Africa. It was Kush, it was Abyssinia. It was the place that Europeans would travel to educate themselves. It was the African, or as we called it then, the Moor, who came to Europe and taught them about using corrals to house their animals, about raised pavements, about astrology, about alchemy, the foundations and the building blocks of life. And we know that pre-colonialism, that we often mixed. There's significant evidence of Moorish people traveling to Europe and coming into what we call the Americas now. And so, you know, there are people such as Mansa Musa, who was an African king. And when he traveled to Europe, he was so shocked by the poverty that he gave away so much gold, he threw off the entire world economy. So it's really important for people to understand the diaspora, particularly the children of the transatlantic slave trade, to understand that they often came from kings and queens, and that the nations that they came from are in many cases extremely prosperous, rich and diverse. And it is their birthright and is actually something that would help everybody, is for them to also reconnect, to visit and to see, because you'd find when I go to the continent of Africa, I travel a lot and I meet a lot of people, and I just feel that, you know, we have so much knowledge. Even if you didn't go to university, even if you didn't graduate, we have so much knowledge that is so useful, and we are so useful, and we have so much to give and to teach. And we can also learn so much from traveling and reconnecting with our roots. So I think that is imperative. I think it's transformational, much in the same way as capitalism works. You know, capitalism relies on someone having more knowledge than another person, or having access to something, and then they sell that to make a profit. So if you don't travel, then you're not aware of the potential ways that you can become more successful at what you do. So I think that that is really, really important. Yeah.
I will say I love how you broke that down, and you talked about Kush and you talked about Mansa Musa, because there's a lot of people that truly just don't know. And like the American educational system, they don't teach us about that. They say, oh, well, you know, Christopher Columbus discovered America. But then when you really think about it, you're like, wait, there were already people here. So how did you discover something that there were already people here? And then you say, well, wait a minute, if I travel to South America, I see big statues that look just like people that are in Africa. And these statues clearly predate any transatlantic slave trade. So somebody was traveling. So I'm glad you brought that up. And I used to honestly refer to Black Americans, I used to say we were kind of like the bastard children of the world. Like we know who our dad is, but they don't want us almost. And so a lot of American Blacks feel like they are not welcomed overseas. So what would you say to the average American Black person? Are we welcomed? Will we, you know, what would you say to that?
I would say that that is nonsense. It was one of the things that I noticed when I traveled to America, was I found the media like really quite negative. Whereas actually when you come to Europe and other parts of the world, people love African Americans. Like most people listen to African American music and film and arts and culture. I remember being a kid and traveling to Japan for a fashion shoot, and I literally met this guy, and he had like Thug Life tattooed on his stomach in Japan, right? So people are completely and utterly inspired by African Americans. I think that they're beautiful human beings. I think that it's just the media, you know, good business relies on keeping people where they are. So I don't, for some reason, I'm not sure why you're not encouraged to travel. I think that you should, because people, don't have a problem with Americans. They might have a problem with the government, but that's the same for like most countries. Like people like don't not like Russian people, but they might not like Putin. People don't not like Koreans, but they might not like Kim Jong-un. You know, people know that your presidents are not necessarily a reflection of the people that live in those nations. So there is no judgment whatsoever. So I think that there are many Americans who do travel to Europe, and it gives them such richness in their career. And in fact, it supports and sometimes propels their career because they learn a lot from other cultures and they bring that back and then they export that in the US.
I agree. Traveling is a beautiful thing. And I've yet to go to Europe or to the motherland, but I'm planning on it. But I just feel like I want Black America. I'm sorry?
Everyone should come.
Yeah, no, but believe me, when I come, look, I will have you show me around because hell, I don't know where I'm going. But one thing about it, I would say with Black Americans, I just want us to keep that open mind because everybody wants to go to Jamaica. And it's like, okay, but Jamaica's a hop, skip, and a jump. Everybody wants to run to Mexico. That's right next door. Or the Dominican Republic. It's like, what about Iceland? What about...
Iceland's amazing. Iceland is actually amazing. You'd be shocked. You think Iceland is cold and it's like beautiful and like hot, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I remember I did a fashion shoot early in my career in the UAE, and I was really shocked because I ended up on the cover. I totally didn't expect because I am dark skinned, and they put me on the cover, and I just remember going and being like blown away by how like their environment was. Like, it was like amazing. Like, you know, I go to Dubai regularly. It is literally the coolest place ever. It's amazing. It's like, I can't even explain how amazing it is there to you, but it's just mind blowing. Same with parts of Africa and countries in Africa that I go to and I travel to. Like, they have the same stuff that we have, and sometimes it is 10 times better. And I know that sounds crazy because we're kind of programmed to think that like everything's here and everything here is the best, but actually that's not actually true. That's why so many people who have significant income travel. But again, it's really important for you to understand that I came from what you guys call a hood. So, you know, people don't really realize that the kind of, we call them council estates over here. So in the UK and other European countries like Paris, if you were to like check out the hoods, they're probably worse than even parts of America. I promise you. Like, I've been to certain hoods in Paris that are worse than the hoods I've been to in America, and I've been to a lot of hoods. It's a really great film called La Haine, which translates to the hate in English. And it is the reality of how particularly Afro-Caribbean people live in. So where I'm from, my background is pretty serious. And if I didn't travel, if I didn't use university as a vehicle to travel, if I didn't use fashion as a vehicle to travel, if I didn't save up my pennies, get my passport, then I wouldn't be where I am today, because it's only because I traveled that I got this kind of, we call it the bug for traveling, where you're like, you discover so much about yourself and you discover new ways that you can learn and advance your career, and you can make a difference.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head with that. And even when you talk to some people about how there are ghettos in other countries, they're just like it's amazing how closed-minded some people are. But you know, hopefully as time goes on, people will open up their minds to traveling and stuff like that.
And also, I don't even like, I really believe in just keeping life and words is, I feel like they have so much resonance. Like human beings were made like 70% of water. But I don't even like to use any words that are in any way negative if I can. So I don't feel like we should even say that people are closed-minded. I think it's because we're not taught certain things. So it's really mind-blowing to suddenly find something out. And of course, you're going to have fear, you're going to have doubt, you're going to question, you're going to say, how is this possible? Because we have not been taught about those things. And it's okay to have fear and it's okay to be concerned or worried. But now with the internet, you can go online, you can YouTube, you can Google, you can see the reality and you can understand how things work. You know, you can definitely travel to most places in the world completely unchaperoned, and you will meet people, you will make friends, because many countries are very, very friendly. Like you, and people are not expecting anything from you. They just want to understand you and your culture and what you're about and where you're from. And I think often when you come from countries or continents such as our own, which are capitalist, you think that everywhere is like that. Whereas there are many, many cultures and societies that are egalitarian or more socialist. So the intention isn't actually to get anything from you other than experience, knowledge, understanding, and education.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know, like, you can even go to like certain, I don't want to say villages, but certain small communities, and they'll just be, are you hungry? Have dinner with us. They'll take you around. So it's just, you know what? I think everybody needs a friend that lives outside of the country that they do. I think everybody needs a friend like that. I think that'll help to keep people grounded and
Definitely.
in tune with how other people live around the world. So let me ask you, you know, first Black supermodel of Scotland. You've overcome a lot of obstacles. You've managed to keep it pushing and keep a long career in fashion. You're an author now at this point. What's next for Eunice? What's next for you?
Well, I have just contributed to another book called The Loud Black Girls Anthology, and I have a chapter in that book called Transferred Representations and Interchangeable States. And that's all about how African diaspora or Black people are seen through an African American lens, which I think African Americans will probably find fascinating to understand that the African American image has been exported all over the world to the point where non-Black people think that all Black people behave and act like African Americans, which is fascinating.
Wow.
And I'm now writing another book, as well as working on my own television series for Netflix, which is quite exciting. And then I also own an art gallery, which I'm very proud of. So I'm very fortunate to represent some of the most amazing and successful artists in the world, which is quite mind-blowing and quite accidental. Life can be like that. And I also act. So I've got a few projects that I'm working on, which are very exciting. So I'm really happy about that as well as my charity work that I do. So yeah, quite hectic. Hoping to get out to the US soon. Obviously, the situation with COVID-19 has been really annoying for us who love traveling. So hopefully sometime soon we can all start doing that again.
Yes, definitely.
You're on mute.
Oh, whoops. There we go. My bad. I love that you've been able to create several lanes for yourself. I think that's really, really dope. And I will say, honestly, as I looked you up and read your bio, and I was just like, wow, this is a very accomplished woman. And it just goes to show like the power of your mind. Like if you think positive and you know you can do anything you put your mind to, you'll get it done. But if you think you can't do it, then you won't. Like literally, whether you think you can or you can't, they're both right. Like, it's so cliche, but it's a really real thing. And so tell us where we can actually go pick up your books, and then I'll make sure, you know, I have the links in the description box for everyone. But where can we find your books?
Yeah, well, you can purchase the book worldwide from all established kind of distributors, but I suppose for America, Amazon might be the easiest. If you want to get it on a budget, feel free to get the ebook, which you can get direct to your phone. It's much cheaper. And yeah, that's probably the best way to get it. And you can contact me if you need any help or support or guidance. The book also deals with topics such as dealing with rejection. It has lists and contacts with agents and agencies, as well as to all of the main fashion weeks. The book also discusses the various different occupations that are available within the fashion industry. So stylists, fashion lawyers, PRs, buyers, creative directors, photographers. There's so many different occupations within the fashion industry other than just being a model. And some of them, such as when it comes to photography, there are various different strands. So you've got your fashion and editorial photographers, you've got your commercial, your lifestyle, you've also got your paparazzi. And to be honest, that is a job that I often think to myself is extremely suitable to people who maybe don't have, you know, a lot of education or access to it, but they can get themselves to places and they can get pictures, because these photographers make huge amounts of money by simply turning up at the right place at the right time and taking a picture and sending that picture out. So the book has lots in it. It also has a healthy eating guide. It has a fitness routine by a gold medalist in there as well. And then it has my top tips. So there is a lot packed into there. And I've tried to make it as easy and simple as possible so that you can read it easily and quickly. And so, yeah.
I love it. Because I was gonna say, oh, wait, it's gonna echo there. I was gonna say, I know one thing that people are gonna ask is, what is your skin routine? Because your skin is literally like flawless.
Oh my God. I literally don't do anything. I just, okay. I definitely, well, do you know what? I just don't wear makeup. I do not wear makeup unless I'm going out somewhere specifically, and that's just because a lot of the photographers are not setting their meters to just a black skin, so I kind of have to. So, and I recommend if you do wear makeup that you always cleanse, you always make sure you fully remove it when you're sleeping. I stick to really, really organic products, very natural products. I avoid perfumized things. If I do wear perfume or anything like that, I don't want anything with alcohol in it, anything that can dry out my skin. I tend to use a lot of products that are completely natural, but it's very, very basic and simple skincare. Moisturize every day. That's really important. And also, it's so important, literally, just to drink water. Literally, just drinking water will make you look incredible. So, but I tend to stick to, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I love junk. I do eat some junk food. Like, I really eat a lot of food, but I have a balance where I eat just as much healthy food. It's really important to put the right things into your body, because that is your body's fuel, and that's what your body uses when you're sick, to get you out of that sickness and to help your skin. But hey, I'd be lying if I didn't say that melanin, I can't, you know, what can I do? You know,
Like, what do you want her to do? She's born with it. So tell us, Eunice, where can they look you up on like IG and stuff like that and other platforms?
Yeah, it's just my full name, which is Eunice Olumide. So that's EUNICE OLUMIDE. I'm on Instagram. You can get me on Twitter at how2 and the word fashion. Yeah, those are probably the best ways that you can contact me. Feel free to give me a shout if you need any advice, direction. I will do my best to respond to everybody if I can.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, this won't be our last conversation, Eunice. This was a great. Well, we already got acquainted with each other a couple of days ago, but this is definitely part one of many conversations to come. And so I want to thank you for coming on the show. You'll send me some fashion ideas. You guys, Eunice is going to give me.
I've got some ideas for you already, by the way.
Send them my way.
Great. You've got a lovely face. You've got such a kind and lovely, genuine face, and you've got good hair, which is really important. Again, like, confidence is essential in modeling. Like, you have to rock it. You have to go for it. You have to believe in yourself. And even if you don't believe in yourself, you have to just pretend that you do. No one else will know if you don't give it away. This is like the fundamental rule. It doesn't matter if you're doing fashion or music or anything else. Like, if you mess up on stage, as long as you don't look like you've messed up on stage, you will still look fabulous and flawless.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm rocking a dad bod, and I'm just bringing it. I'm just keeping it here, and that's okay. But Eunice, thank you so much for joining me, and then we will be in touch. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and all my love and hugs from here in the UK.
Ladies, treat Gianni. All natural herbs for a fresher, tighter, cleaner, healthier Yanni. This is the Yanni bowl. Here are the herbs. These are natural herbs. A little steamy down there, but it's perks to it. Keep everything right and tight. I'm going to Yanni steam. If you haven't heard about it, definitely got to research it. It has wonderful, wonderful benefits. So ladies, try her out.
It's Storm Show. Ay, it's Storm Show.